Hi, everybody. Dan D. Federici is here, Saratoga Report, and I am here with someone familiar to most of you, Matt Veitch, longtime county supervisor for the city of Saratoga Springs. I asked him to be on this show because it's a newsmakers segment I like to do, just to have a in-depth discussion with somebody making the news. And Matt, a few months ago, you certainly made the news. You surprised a lot of people, including myself, when you announced you would not run after 9 terms, 18 years in what is effectively the county legislature, but where I come from, but technically the Board of Supervisors, which has the legislative body, correct, for the county. That you would not run for a 10th term. And I just had a discussion with someone a week earlier. We were joking that, Court Matt's a shoo-in. The only question is who will be the second one. But then you surprised us. First of all, how are you doing here? And can you talk about your decision to not run again?
Sure. So first of all, doing fine. Everything's good. Hanging out, just kind of finishing up what I need to get done to end out the year here as a supervisor. I think that I've served the public now for 18 years, and I think we've gotten a lot done over those years. Several different accomplishments, and you'll probably ask me what those are, so I won't go into that just now. But so I just feel like I've served my time for Saratoga Springs, served the public, hopefully done a good job and responded to constituent, issues. And, it's time to move on. It's time to look for something else and a new future for me and different things to do. So.
Well, you did do a good job, and it was shown because you kept getting reelected by, very, very large margins. And you did a great job. I viewed you as a reasonable, moderate person that had conservative values, but was very reasonable. Reached across the aisle. I mean, you almost all the time, your counterpart, because we have 2 county supervisors representing the city, your counterpart was a Democrat, and I never know once of you. I mean, certainly there were times probably that there were tensions or whatever, but publicly, I know of no rift between you, and you served with several previous Democrat legislators or supervisors, pretty much who you had to train a little bit. I assume they seem to come to you for help and advice as well.
Sure. So, yes, every one of my counterparts was a Democrat. I did not serve with a Republican county supervisor from Saratoga Springs on the Board of Supervisors. Obviously, the Board of Supervisors in Saratoga County is overwhelmingly Republican. So I was in the majority party at the Board of Supervisors. But yeah, I served with Joanne Yepsen first. She was actually already elected when I got in. So it was her reelection. So that's really who I kind of learned from first.
Okay.
And then I served with Peter Martin for a couple of years, a couple of terms, I think. And then Tara Gaston for 3 terms. And then Michelle Madigan here at the end. So I certainly have seen seen various Democrats on the Board of Supervisors, and at the city council level. I mean, it's been mostly Democrats that have served with me. There's Skip Scirocco and I were kind of the 2 Republicans that got elected there for a while. Right. Came in on a majority of the city council, Scott Johnson and his administration. But it's kind of gone back and forth at the city over the years in the majority or minority of the parties in the city. So it's been interesting to serve with people from various different kinds of political philosophies, and some are a little more I'll say partisan than others. But at the end of the day, I think especially at the end of my term, I've certainly been the one to be the kind of shepherd of the new supervisor coming in to get them up to speed on what's going on at the county, try to work on whatever initiatives they feel are important. I was just talking to somebody yesterday, and I think my philosophy is, if it's a good idea, it doesn't really matter who it comes from, and we should certainly work on those ideas. So my colleagues at the Board of Supervisors from Saratoga Springs over the years have brought many great ideas to the county level, and as a majority supervisor at the county, I've tried to get those done where I've agreed with those ideas. So of course, we haven't really had too many rifts publicly, at least out there, because I'll do what they need to get done to help them out, because really at the end of the day, it helps everybody out. So,
and that's been your approach. Now we talked about your accomplishment. What I want you to start off with the accomplishment you think is most important, or perhaps you're most proud of over your 18 years. You served 2 years. I'm going to interrupt you before you answer that. You served 2 years as county chair, as the chair, right, of the Board of Supervisors.
just 1 year.
1 year, okay,
Yep,
1 year. That was a big deal for the city. That was a feather in our cap that you had the longevity and so forth. And I went to your swearing-in ceremony, and I was honored to be there. But talk about your time there and your reflections.
Yeah. So I was the chair of the board 1 year, 2015, so 10 years ago now. I was vice chair 3 times, so for 3 years. So 2014. And then 2024 and 2025. So currently the vice chair of the Board of Supervisors. But I would say probably there's a lot of accomplishments there, and I kind of think of them all equally important. But really, if you look at it from an overall community support idea, I think really trails and open space would be the biggest thing that I've done at, countywide to get things to kind of move us forward. I kind of came into office as a neighborhood advocate here in Geyser Crest for the Geyser Road Trail. I've been working on that for several years here in the city as a non-elected official, just as a neighborhood person, advocate here to try to improve the area out here in the Geyser Crest area, and even to the town of Milton line, a little bit of intermunicipal ideas there. So coming into office, I was pushing for the county to do more in regards to trails. And so the first year I was supervisor. Go ahead.
Oh, and you've accomplished that, right? You were leading into that.
So the first year I was supervisor, I had proposed a grant program for trails. As a first year supervisor, that was not approved the first year. But what they decided to do instead, which I thought was a great idea, was to create a trails committee at Saratoga County of supervisors who would direct trail development throughout the county. There would be no funding attached, but we would have a trails committee. And so, and then they said, would you like to be the chair of that committee? So year 2 supervisor, 2009, I chaired my first committee, which was the county trails committee. And we started building trails on county lands throughout the county. So not to get too into depth, but the county has forest land parcels that were donated to them in the 1930s from the state of New York. And those parcels are logged for their timber. But when they finish logging the parcel, what we decided to do was build recreational trails in the areas where they cleared the timber. So we've done maybe 20 miles of trails on various pieces of land throughout the county, and was glad to chair that committee. But moving that forward, when I became chair of the board in 2015, I instituted the grant program that I wanted to get done in year 2, or year 1, actually. And so at that moment, I had the budgetary control and the county control, and we got money into the budget for trails. And so we have funded trails at the county ever since. That grant program hopefully will outlast myself, something that we do every single year now at Saratoga County. And we actually have been underfunded in that budget line for probably the last 5 years, where we get more asks from the municipalities for trail money than we actually have to give out. And so, great success. And all over the county now we have different trail programs. And we just lastly, the county actually purchased the land for the Graphite Range Trail system, which is up in the town of Wilton on Route 9 there. That is a county-owned parcel that we purchased from a private landowner a few years ago and developed that trail system there. So it's moved from, we don't want to fund it at all 10 years ago, 20 years ago now almost, to the county is investing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in open space purchases to build trails and to have people use them. So it's a huge change in our philosophy since I started.
And I feel that's the right word to use, the investing, because we're investing in the livability of this county, the attractiveness of this county, whether it's visitors or residents. And we're, as you know, we're getting more and more. This is just a great place to live, and government probably doesn't get enough credit for the things they've done to make this. Some of it is natural, right? We got springs, we got horse racing, or natural or historical. We got a battlefield. We got a lot of things, but the county government maybe is not getting enough credit. The chambers, Discover Saratoga, and certainly even the city, even though there's a lot going on, some of it not good.
Yeah.
They do take some steps in the right direction.
Yeah. So, yeah, sure. And open space and trails has now become a standing committee. So again, just to kind of cement that a little more, is that it was an ad hoc committee for the first few years. We didn't have it as a formal county committee. We now have it as something that is part of our structure of committees at Saratoga County every single year. And so it becomes a priority, right, for the county, countywide. And so if you don't get out around the county, you should, and see all the different trail systems that we built and walk on some of them. They're open to various forms of transportation, but you can bike them. Some of them are horse trails, like up in the town of Moreau, kind of dealt for horseback riding, not necessarily hiking so much, but we kind of run the gamut on, use on our trails. You can pretty much do whatever you want on them.
What I want to ask you to tell me a specific county trail website, but is there one website for the county you would recommend where people can get comprehensive list of trails?
That's a good question. So probably the Chamber of Commerce would be the best for overall county trails. Like that's including Saratoga Plan and other, open space and trail kind of stewards that are out there, not just the county. That's probably the best place to go. But Saratoga County's website itself has a pretty good resource for all the trail systems that are out there. Our planning department kind of collects all that information and puts it out there. So just Saratoga County.
Which department? What department?
Our planning department.
Okay.
Planning and Economic Development. Yeah. So Saratoga County NY.gov is our website, and you can find it under departments. You'll find planning and economic development, and that's where you'll find that information.
Okay, great. Let me see if I have that right there.
You do. Okay. Very good.
And anything outside the parks and trails and open space area that you have take certain pride in or want to comment on?
Yeah. So there's quite a few of those. I think over the years we're doing a big, huge county airport expansion. You and I have talked about that in the past. Right now, it's almost done. Actually, we're going into almost the second year of that project. But I was chair of the Buildings and Grounds Committee, and the state had this money available for airport improvement projects. The county put in the grant award, and we got awarded $27 million to essentially build our first airport terminal at the county airport. And not a lot of people use the county airport. It's for, it's kind of for certain private planes and things like that come in. We are putting a restaurant in there. So the public can come and be invited to, enjoy a meal at the Saratoga County Airport and watch the activities going on there, because it is a pretty active place, actually, and just see what we have going on there. So, and it's a nice facility that's going to be built.
Can I assume this restaurant is going to have windows open to the runway? Yeah. So I'll have my kids there and they can, watch the planes land and so forth?
Yes. And some outdoor areas as well outside. So you can go outside and, stand by the fence and watch what's going on there. So,
so has that been finalized? Because I heard something about like a North Greenbush restaurant was maybe bidding on that and so forth. And
yeah, I can't remember the name of the restaurant, but I think we just approved it this month.
It was a diner. It was a diner in North Greenbush. I want to say.
Yeah. So they got the bid, and we basically have approved it. So that they're going to be coming in pretty soon. But construction is almost done. If you go up to the town of Milton, take a look. It's quite the structure that's being built there, and I'm pretty proud of that from a county government perspective. But in the city, I would say that a couple things. We were able to secure $300,000 for the third fire station. So the county hazardous materials team is out of Saratoga Springs. Since we're the only 24/7 fire department in the county, paid service, right. We actually have the county hazardous materials team within our department. And so that's all 100% paid for by the county. And when the third fire station was going to get constructed, and I had always said this for years, that if they ever decided to build it, and it took the city a long time to get there, that we would try to put some county money into that, have the hazmat team be there. And, we kind of estimated how much would it cost to build the bay, right? To build for the truck to be, housed in. And the city came up with a figure of $300,000. And I went to the county and asked if we could, pay for that for our own vehicle, the county's own vehicle, right, to be housed there. And the county came through with that funding. And so the city gets, I think it's $30,000 a year for 10 years as a payment from the county for the hazardous material truck at Third Fire Station. So I try to do what I can to help the city where I can. And that's one of the bigger ones. Another one is we had $325,000 a couple of years ago in directed funding from the supervisors to the city. If you remember way back in the day, Dan, I know you know this, there was things called member items at the state level.
Yes.
We kind of did one at the county. And so they had set aside some money for the supervisors from Saratoga Springs to direct to funding projects throughout the city. And so a couple of them, just to name them, are new welcome signage, which is still being done. So the kind of lower level welcome signage is already done. So if you drive around the city of Saratoga Springs now, you can see at the border, there's a sign that says "Welcome to Saratoga Springs." They kind of popped up out of nowhere.
I've seen them on maybe the secondary roads, right?
Yeah. So those are all funded by the county on my direction, our direction. I was with Supervisor Gaston at the time. And the county made all those signs, and then the city put them up. The county normally doesn't do that, but we had the funding to do that project. There's going to be more elaborate welcome signs put up on the state roads that come into the city, like exit 14, exit 15, Route 9. The state highways are going to have a more elaborate version of that sign. It's going to look really nice, a lot like the one that says "Welcome to Saratoga" when you come in on the arterial.
I always felt, and I applaud you for doing that, and let me acknowledge the fire station as well, the county's involvement there, because it really bothered me, because I know where the boundaries are roughly.
Yes.
And it drove me nuts to drive into the city without a single indication, other than maybe a change of pavement or a speed zone or something indicating that we were going. I said, this, I have as a Saratogian, a certain amount of arrogance about Saratoga Springs. This is Saratoga
Call it
Springs,
pride.
Damn it. Yeah.
call it pride.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's probably a better word. But when I get mad, that's where the arrogance comes in. And it bothered me. So I could, and some people may not think it's a big deal. I did. I think it's important.
It's something that bothered me since I was a kid. I mean, I've lived here my whole life, and for 50 years, it's been a bother that we don't say when you're in the city of Saratoga Springs. And then some of the signs that we did have were actually placed in the wrong location, which is kind of ironic. So like the signs on Route 9N coming in by the Adirondack Trust there, Church Street. The sign is at the Adirondack Trust building, or right near it, by that 2 West or whatever.
Yeah.
But the actual border is way out by the Stewart's plant.
Yes.
And so I made it clear to the city DPW when we were doing this project that the signs are to be placed at the actual city border and not like in the downtown area, of the city, because people shouldn't, and people who live out in the outer district, like you and I do, we live here too. And it's not like, we're inside the border, but it seems like we're outside the border for some reason.
And Saratoga Springs, for its population, has a very big footprint compared to other cities or upstate cities around the state.
I was surprised how many signs we had to make. Actually.
Yeah. Like
so
North Line
along with that, we did a lot of grants to various not-for-profits, which was probably a good thing as well. Saratoga Shredders and if I remember, Rise received some money from that grant program, among others. I think the Senior Center. So we presented a lot of checks. We actually did a pretty decent one to kind of segue it for the Frederick Allen Lodge. They have some, building, renovations that they need to do. And so the county helped to fund that as well. So the idea of member item funding, I think for me is a good one. We helped a lot of great organizations in the city that needed some funding. And to kind of segue into that, we are doing a project where we're building historical markers for the 2 African-American churches that were torn down during urban renewal. We are going to place markers at the sites of those 2 churches where they originally stood to commemorate their original existence. And we're also going to do a historical marker down on Congress Street, kind of right where the Embassy Suites is located, to commemorate the African-American neighborhood that was there on Congress Street and all the businesses that were in that area that served all the, guests of the city for so many years.
Yes.
People don't really, a lot of residents are newer residents, but they don't know that area of the city was kind of like the first Caroline Street kind of area.
Okay.
It was a entertainment district with a lot of bars and restaurants and various activities going on there. And Hattie's was located in that
Okay, that's right.
area, its original spot. So and a lot of those were Black-owned businesses actually in the city. So urban renewal tore down a lot of that stuff, or all of it really. And it's probably time for our city to acknowledge that was there. And we had the funding to do it. Frederick Allen Lodge has been a great partner in that, and helping to tell the story. We're funding it, but they're kind of telling the story of what happened out there. And hopefully those signs will be done shortly, and we'll have them put up by the end of the year this year. So so the project is winding down just in time.
You're barely taking credit for that, and I want to acknowledge. I know, because I was there talking to you at the beginning. You were the one that I believe spearheaded this, so I commend you for your leadership and involvement in this. I think you got this going, and you kept it going, and you just had help. Good for you for acknowledging your help. But Matt, you're not going to hide from me.
We had a kind of a tough era of the city there for the past 4 years, when dealing with those kinds of issues, right? And while I don't know if I have the direct authority to do a lot of things for some of the problems that people are bringing up, that's one thing that you can do, or one thing I could do, right? Which was to try to acknowledge those areas of the city, nod to the past, right? And show that our city, understands that, it wasn't a great time in the 60s and 70s in our city. And a lot of it, urban renewal was going on at that time, and we should acknowledge that we had a thriving African-American business community in our city. It's not really there so much anymore. So, it's worth doing it.
Hey, let me shift gears with you here. Come January, unless my write-in campaign to get you reelected works, come January, we're going to have 2 brand new supervisors that have never served at the either in office in some cases, or at the county level. Certainly none of the 3, Georgia Ehinger, Sarah Berger, and Manita Sangvi, all 3 are running. 2 of them will be elected, and they're going to be brand new. At least one of them will be a Democrat, and in the minority party. What advice would you give them right here as they start their office, as far as handling the county level? It's a whole different animal, right? It's very different from City Hall. It's an eye opener. What would you tell them? What advice would you give them?
I would say that, coming into office, I'm trying to think of things that I would have done differently. I think it's good to have ideas and initiatives, right? The county is open to at least listening to those. But county government, city government can move slow, but county government reacts a little bit slower. And it takes a lot more conversation to get something done. There's 23 supervisors, right? As opposed to 5 city council members. And each of those supervisors represents their own town, right? They don't represent the city of Saratoga Springs. Their first responsibility isn't to the city, right? And so as a city supervisor, you have to bring up your goals and initiatives for your community, but you also have to do a lot of convincing and discussing with the other supervisors as to why it benefits the county. Because things that benefit the city, they may not have an interest in, right? You really want to get something done, and to them, it's just not hitting the radar with their elected officials, right? And I think the other thing too that supervisors need to understand from the city is the county is a lot more conservative than the city is. Even myself, I'm a Republican, but I'm a little more moderate than some of my colleagues on the Board of Supervisors, and so they don't necessarily see the world the same way, and we need to you just need to understand that when you're having that discussion with them. And not standing out there all the time, and how I kind of did that is works a little bit better at the county, right? Going to the Times Union first with an initiative that you want them to work on doesn't go over very well at the county.
Right. Well,
so working within the system is really the key to success, I think, at Saratoga County.
And that segues me into a topic, kind of something that's, depending on your perspective, has fallen a little short, but maybe this is
Yep.
just part of the process. You said it takes a while. We're talking about 4 a.m. last call.
Yep.
You knew the time wasn't right a couple of years ago. You thought maybe there was a better chance this year, and yet it still fell short. I want to ask you to analyze over what going forward. Let's say
Yeah.
a majority of us agree that maybe it's time that we adjust that, not drastically, but adjust it. Um, what can we do to get that over the goal line, to get that
Yeah.
changed? And I know
Well,
it's
I
a
mean,
state decision, but the county has to initiate the process, right?
yeah, I mean, the way that the state law is set up is that the county has to pass a resolution to ask the state to change the last call hours. So the city can't, the city by the state law can't do it alone, right? As much as the city has a desire to want to do that, they can't do it alone based on the current way it's set up. The county actually has asked the state a couple of times to try to change their law to allow municipalities to individually set their times, but the state hasn't really responded too well to that. They haven't really responded at all to that request from Saratoga County. So, I had been hearing from a few of my colleagues that they were in favor of last call and, going to an earlier last call hour. And, so I had thought that there was some momentum there to maybe get enough weighted vote at the county to change that. I think the issues still remain as what we just talked about. They don't see that as a priority issue in their community. It's a Saratoga Springs issue. And it's something that the city has to try to figure out to solve. It's not a county for many of the colleagues, right? It's not a county issue to be fixed at the county level. Now, I will say, based on the votes that happened, is the supervisors that were closest to the city of Saratoga Springs voted in favor of earlier last call. So town of Saratoga, a town of Milton was not there, but I knew he was in favor of it. Town of Greenfield was most likely in favor of it. So when you are closer to the city, you had more support. The further away you got, the less it was going to have support. So, down in Waterford, they voted no. Up in Monroe, they voted no, right? So Half Moon was a no. They have a lot of weight at the county. Half Moon's a really big town. So that kind of squashed that vote at the time. There were some absences there, which was certainly an issue. It was the school break or something when that happened, and some folks were not there. I have some opinions about that, but I'll keep them to myself. But at the end of the day, we didn't get it through. So I think if the new supervisors who get in, keep working on that issue, it's just in the framing of it sometimes. And sometimes the time is right. Something may happen that creates an opening for something like that to get done. So, I've also found that out over 18 years that issues aren't ever really dead. They just take time, or they have to be rephrased, or you have to kind of do a little bit more legwork to get it through. And so this is one of those that I think if we spent a little more time working on our colleagues from further away from the city, we might have got it through.
Okay.
But it remains to be seen, and I'll pass that off. I'll pass that hot potato off to the next supervisors to try to work on. I did what I could.
Okay. Thank you. And I got to ask a question that is a little bit negative. Are there things, and we just talked about one of them. I don't know if it's gonna dig at you, but are there things that dig at you? Are there things that you were really important to you, and you fell short, or didn't even get them off the ground, or just didn't have time? Where are there regrets? I guess. Did you wish you could have done something, accomplished something that you didn't get done?
That is a really, really good question. There would have been 10 years ago.
Okay.
But most of what I wanted to do, I got done.
Great.
I'm trying to think. I mean, the only thing that I think that's left out there for me that I'd like to see some action on, and it's very timely, is homelessness. I mean, it's still an issue that's out there that we haven't yet quite solved from I'll call it a city and a county perspective. I think we're probably at the closest point we've ever been to trying to get some, I don't want to say final decision, but I think we're at the closest point that we've been based on the recent events that happened at city council and some of the actions from the city council. The county hasn't been as involved in that whole Adelphi shelter. And so we're kind of coming at it from an outsider perspective at the county level. But if there's a conversation that can be had about this, with the Code Blue location being established up on Ballston Avenue from the county, it's a facility that's available. So that I'll say, but at the end of the day, there has to be a lot of conversation about what happens there before the county gets on board. And so, if we can get something done on that, that would be a great accomplishment at the end. I'm still kind of, not in a place where I would be happy with what's going on there. I think Code Blue is fine. I just think the city's homeless issue is something that we have to continue to work on. And the county is a part of that conversation, and we need to have that conversation in order for us to get it solved. Yeah, I'd say the other thing maybe is also more recent, because for me, I only think of recent issues, I guess, is the truck issue on Van Dam. We've been working hard on that for this whole year, trying to figure out solutions to alleviate some of those issues. Can't get into too many details, but we have some ideas about what might work. And it does involve a countywide solution. Because outside of the city, there may be better opportunities for rerouting some things.
Sure.
But again, similar issue with everything else. It's a city of Saratoga Springs concern. The towns have to also see and understand and figure out how it affects them, so that we can all come together for a bigger solution. Right now, it's a city issue. Go to your neighboring town and say, hey, we've got trucks in our city. Can you help us? Well, what do you think that answer is, right? And no way.
Well, not only that, we're the most successful rich city you'll ever know of.
Right. We don't want.
Please take our problems.
Right. So we have to figure out a way to work together on that. How do we convince a town that we can do something that's beneficial for both communities? And how do we work together on that? Right? Is there something you need that we can maybe help you with? Right. And so let's have that conversation. And maybe we'll get to a solution. But yeah, that one's kind of still out there. Hopefully we can have some sort of resolution by the end of the year. But if not, we pass the torch to the next one.
Right.
And they'll have to handle it.
And you sort of lead me towards my final question a little bit here. And it's a doozy, Matt. Saratoga Springs. Now let me see if I'm saying this correctly. You are not a city official, you're a county official, but yet you've had a bird's eye seat into City Hall.
Yes.
Is that, and so you've seen it all. You're right there. You're right there in the thick of it. Yet slightly removed. My question to you is, to the citizenry, to the current public officials, to the future public officials in this city, it's been a shit show for a number of years now. I have people regularly contacting me from Florida, almost every 4 weeks, not so much lately, but in the past 3 years, saying, what is going on there? And it's been ugly and it's been bad. I think and more recently it's been better, but you never know when it's going to percolate and just explode again.
Yeah.
What is your advice to, again, both the citizenry and the current and future elected officials as to how we get along and move this city forward with such diverse interests and the fighting that's been going on? How do we get along? How do we make this city better together?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the first part I'm going to say, and I'll give you probably maybe the saddest thing I'll ever say, is that I attended almost every single city council meeting for 17 years. It'll be 18 years.
That alone deserves a pension and a medal.
So you're right. I've had a bird's eye seat to the city government for the last 17 years, almost 18 years. It's a charter requirement that supervisors must attend city council meetings. So that's why I had to do it. And sometimes I had things to say, and sometimes I sat there for 3 to 4 hours and watch the council work, but, I think with your other part of your question, I agree. I think the city has become a little more divided in the government. I feel that There is more partisanship, I notice, over the past, 10 years, let's say, maybe even the whole time. But, it really feels like there's a lot of acrimony at the council table every 2 weeks, twice a month, right? Saratoga Springs' form of government requires cooperation among elected officials. It's a must. You have to be able to work with somebody from a different party. It by nature almost puts the city first, right? The elected officials are almost secondary because there's 5 of them and they all have equal power. And
Right.
so, you have to be able to get past personality differences, and you have to be able to get past partisanship in order to get things done in the city, or to have it be successful, because otherwise it just becomes stalemated government and nothing really happens. And I have been able to work with all the city council members. I can't really think of one where I had things that we couldn't do together, despite party or despite personality. There's been some that have been challenging, I'll say that, but at the end of the day, things can still get done even with that. And so I feel like our city needs to remember that, again, I said this over and over again, that issues that come up are not Democrat or Republican issues. They're just issues that arise that we have to solve as a community, as a council, or as a county board of supervisors, right? They're an issue is an issue. So let's look at it from that perspective first, before we start going, well, that's your thing, or that's my thing, or I don't like how you do that, right? Or, this person, doesn't handle it well. So, we can't start there. That gets us nowhere. So at the end of the day, you have to be able to just take a step back. Let's try to solve this problem and do it together. And so that's how I've tried to work the whole time I've been there. And hopefully our future commissioners and future supervisors will take that to heart. But I do fear that national level politics has seeped into the local level. People used to always say, well, you still need to get the roads plowed, right? We still need to do that. But, so we don't really think about the upper level political nature of that. But within that today, you still need to get the roads plowed, but half the people think you're plowing them wrong. Right. So you have an issue there, and how do you get around that at the government level? So it's a challenge, and I think I have hope that our city can kind of turn down the temperature a little bit and work together on some issues. I am a member of the Charter Review Commission, and I appreciate Mayor Safford putting me on that, and I hope to lend my expertise of again 17 years of every city council meeting almost, to give some advice as to how we can do things a little better for the people, and also operate more efficiently as a government. So
two final quick questions here. Sure. Are you ruling it out, or would you consider running for office someday 5 years down the road?
Right now I'm ruling it out, but you can never say never in politics. If something looks good, then maybe I'll run for it again. But as of right now, that, not to get into all the reasons why I'm not running, but, spinning up an election and running a campaign, I just didn't have that desire this time. I used to have 2 jobs, a full-time job and a supervisor job, and then running up a campaign was very difficult. Right now I don't have the full-time job anymore, and I'm still a supervisor, but I just don't feel that added challenges in it this time. So I just feel like I don't really want to do that. And but in the future, if I am rested and ready, I will consider running for something else for sure.
Okay, great. You heard it here, folks. He's running for mayor in 4 years. No, I'm kidding.
I know.
And my final thing, I wish I would have spotted this earlier in this. I give a plug for the Saratoga Turning Point, the 250, the shirt you got on.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so Saratoga County for the last 3 or 4 years now have been working toward the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution, the Battles of Saratoga, that occurred in 1777. So when we get to 2027, we'll have a huge celebration here in Saratoga County about the Battles of Saratoga. It'll be an international event, as it was when they had the 200th for the battles of Saratoga. The British will probably come again to that event, and we'll send them home at the end, just like we did back in 1777. But at the end of the day, we're going to have probably a pretty large event, and it's going to be a countywide, a national event, really, as the turning point of the American Revolution. It's an international event that occurred in world history, and so we certainly can't wait to host it. The 250th events are actually starting at a national level this year. 1775 is when they did one for the Boston Tea Party already. So those events that led up to the American Revolution are happening now in other states, and so there is a pretty large effort nationwide to highlight the American Revolution and the events that occurred. So we started a couple of years ago. We've been putting funding into a commission, and we have a committee that's established. There's a lot of you'll see this in a lot of places. If you go around, there's flags up in a lot of the towns, and they're down. Saratoga Springs has them in downtown, where the 250th flag is out already. So we're trying to alert the public that there's an event coming in a couple of years that's going to really be big here. So I can't wait for it.
And our friend Bill Teeter is the one that's kind of in charge of all that, right?
Yes. He is doing a lot of the outreach and like PR campaign for all of that. Yes. Yeah. So
Friday morning, you mentioned international. I just posted a BBC article about the celebration coming up. So that certainly is an international. Of course, the BBC might have a special perspective on it, like you said.
Theirs might be a little different, but BBC America will have a certain perspective on it.
Right. 250 years. We've done good work with Britain since then. So bygones will be bygones. Hey, Matt, thank you for joining me today. And as a constituent, as a Saratogian, as a friend, I thank you. People always thank the military and the first responders as well. They should, of course. I don't know if they thank politicians enough. So I want to thank you for your service. And because all those meetings, taking away time from family, late nights, accusations, finger pointing, all that's a rough and tumble world for 18 years. God bless you, Matt. So thank you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
And thank you for 18 years.
I appreciate it. No problem. Have a
Take
good
care.
one.
We'll be in touch.